Hey everybody, good evening. I almost said good morning. I'm so used to being here in the mornings. Thanks so much everybody. This is Harriet Kemmick with Down to Earth. And it's a special edition of Down to Earth as we're going to talk about relationships. And we're going to talk about toxic relationships this evening. So I have as my special guest Dr. Rhonda Mattox, who is a behavioral health expert. So she's the expert. So she's going to talk about why do we continue to hook up with people we shouldn't really be hooking up with, and why are we in toxic relationships. So it's going to get live. We're just going to kind of fly off the cuff. If you have any questions, you are welcome to join the conversation, of course. The conversation takes place at 516-387-1463. So if you want to join in the conversation, feel free to do so, right? It's Monday evening, and it's almost Valentine's Day. So how many of us are ready for Valentine's Day? I don't know about you, but I think I'm a little bit, I don't know. Well, I don't have a Valentine, so I'm good. Right? But for those of us who do, well, happy Valentine's Day. So let me tell you a little bit about my special guest. She's Dr. Rhonda Mattox. She's a Jill of all trades. She currently serves as an integrative behavioral health psychiatrist to primary care providers in rural outpatient settings. Previously, Dr. Mattox worked as a medical media consultant for the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA. She's also currently an associate professor at the University of Arkansas Medical Sciences, and as a consultant to state and federal agencies such as the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration and the United States Health and Human Services. She's based in Little Rock, Arkansas, and is about to move to Atlanta. She's never going to move to Detroit. So everybody help me welcome my bestie, my girl, Dr. Rhonda Mattox. Welcome.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure to join you again.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. So, Doc, we want to talk about, it's the season of Valentine's, and everybody is going to do a hookup between now and Friday. I know text messages are being sent right now, and people are placing their orders for roses and flowers and all kinds of edible stuff. And a lot of these are not going to last beyond Saturday morning. I mean, and many of you might even wake up Saturday morning regretting where you spent Friday night.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
So, Doc, I want to ask you, how can we keep attracting the same kind of people?
Because we keep being the same kind of people. If you want to attract something different, then you use a different kind of bait. Fishermen know this, when they want to attract crappie, they use a certain kind of bait. If they want to attract catfish, they use a certain kind of bait. Deep sea fishers use a certain kind of bait. We keep using the same kind of bait, getting the same kind of man, and busting because we want different results. If you want different results, then you deliver different bait.
So you're telling me that the reason we're all attracting the same person is because we are the same person, so we are attracting the same kind of fish over and over.
Well, I'm telling you, if you continue to do the same things, you're going to continue to get the same result. And we will still have a different face,
mm-hmm.
a different smile,
mm-hmm.
a different gimmick,
mm-hmm.
but in the end, we are, we have just these automatic responses to people, and so we keep bringing the same people into our lives on some level. Sometimes it's because this is who we're comfortable with. Even when we say we're not, we want something different. We keep doing the same thing, and we keep getting the same person.
Wow.
Now this is my educated hypothesis. I could be wrong, but I went to UCLA, so maybe I'm not.
No, I would say you're right. So essentially, what we're doing then, Doc, is that we're sending out the same feelers. So we haven't changed because we haven't done the work to change us, right?
Right.
Okay. I get it. So
Right.
we need to.
And here's the thing. And
Right.
and some of us really need to do the internal hard work
Uh-huh.
on ourselves,
Uh-huh.
because we are bringing so much into the relationship, so much baggage into the relationship that, it's like we're a shot of whiskey. Everybody can't do whiskey. I don't do whiskey,
Mm-hmm.
And so if you bring so much into the relationship, it can be really heavy. And it's not that people want to abandon you or to desert you, but I tell some of the people I work with, listen, don't tell people that you're molested on the first date.
Wow.
Don't tell people how awful folks treated you,
Wow.
in your first 3 days, because what you've just done is said, I tolerate this kind of behavior from other people.
Woo.
And so even maybe men who wouldn't have done that will recognize, hey, if, JoJo can do it, and Junebug can do it, and Pee-wee can do it, well, and maybe they try some extra. Now, I'm not trying to say that it is a victim's fault that they continue to be re-victimized.
Right.
But I am saying that you cannot be a victim and a victor at the same time. They're mutually exclusive. You have to take off the victim cap in order to be a victor.
But are you all hearing this stuff? Are you all hearing this? There's some things that we do on the first date that we shouldn't do. So if you go to the first date, there's some things you shouldn't. I say this all the time. Do not tell anybody anything about you. Don't tell them that your husband left you or he beat you up. You think I say that on the first dates? You got to go investigate that. I'm not telling you that until later on into it.
That is what your therapist is for. That is what your pastor is for.
Ooh,
that
Jesus.
is not what your first date is for. And I'm just going to tell you, my daughter will test the boundary. She is going to push and push and push and see exactly how much I'm going to let her do. And I'll take it even further. So is my husband. He's going to figure out what I will let him get away with. And then after I set the boundary, he's going to test the boundary a little bit. She's going to test the boundary a little bit. That's what people do. And
Are
so
you
when
all
you
listening to
set
this?
out on the first few dates,
Are you all listening?
In the
So
first few dates, if you...
So you're saying, you hear what the doctor's saying? I want you all to hear this. What the doctor is saying, set the boundaries on the first date. You gotta let the partner know what is it that you're gonna tolerate and what you're not. I think, Doc, half the times when we enter into these relationships, we are so afraid the person will not come back for the second, third follow-up dates that we literally just lay yourselves down as a doormat and just tell them everything, and then they walk away saying, I don't want to be with that. That's a lot of baggage. I don't want to lift that up or carry that. Right?
And here's the thing. We don't get there overnight. You have to understand that some of us are programmed to be like that in our childhood.
Are you hearing this? No, because this is fascinating to me, because it seems like we are not setting boundaries, right? And because we're not setting boundaries on the first date, we tell everything. We tell everything, and then whatever happens after that happens, right? So you're telling them what is acceptable and what is not.
And you have to consistently set boundaries. It's not a one-time thing. It's ongoing.
Wow.
You're continuing to identify, these are my boundaries, And I'm not giving you an ultimatum. I am just saying, this is what I will not tolerate. And if you choose to do this, then you are choosing not to have a relationship with me, because I respect me.
Are you hearing this, y'all? But Doc, what happens when, because some of us girls, we do say things like that, and then they tell us that they don't come back. They tell us that we have standards. But you're saying that we're on the right track by establishing what our boundaries are and what our levels of tolerance are.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I would have people say to me when I was 28, why aren't you married? What's wrong with you? Are you gay? Da-da-da-da-da. And my response was standard. I have standards. There's nothing wrong with me. I know what I'm looking for. And then they would say stuff like, well, there are not many men out there like that. Well, I'm not looking for many like that. I only need one.
Oh my God. This is mind-blowing, because I feel so, listen, ladies and gentlemen, transparency moment. I feel so totally validated in this conversation. Because I feel so totally validated. I am so fine, y'all, because I have been saying the same thing for years, that I'm not giving you an ultimatum, because you don't have to be with me, but I am saying this is what I can tolerate and deal with. And if it's not okay with you, then it's fine.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, I remember bringing a young guy home to meet my brother, and he was just a fabulous guy. And my brother vetoed him, and I said, why did you veto him? He said, because you're too nice around him. And I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, girl, you can't keep that up for a lifetime. No, he has to go.
Wow.
It's like, I want you to be with someone where, and you're yourself.
Right.
He was like, you can't be that person around him forever. So
hold on, Doc. Doc, hold on. Somebody is calling in. Let's hear what they have to say. Hey, this is Harriet with Down to Earth, and Dr. Mattox is on. Dr. Rhonda is on. Welcome, caller number 1.
Good evening, ladies. Good evening, Dr. Mattox. I didn't know that I was actually calling into the show. I was kind of listening. But good topic tonight. Anyway.
Okay, that's great.
As
We're
far
getting
as
nervous now.
why is that?
Because you didn't know you were calling into the show, so we're getting nervous now. Come on, what do you have?
No, I was calling in to kind of listen while I was moving around.
Right.
But I thought I needed to hit one to actually come on the show. But anyway, you guys were talking about first dates, and maybe there should be some standards. I mean, some way of first of all choosing a partner.
Huh.
Right?
Let's start right there. Choosing a partner.
Yeah, I think there should be. I was never taught. I don't know about you ladies, but I was never taught specifically what to look for and how to choose a mate.
Oh, really?
And I think that's part of the problem.
Wow.
And nothing, right? I mean, I think that's part of the problem because, if you don't know what you're looking for, if you don't know how to choose.
Hello. Finally.
That's a big problem. But it's not something that we were taught. Like I wasn't taught that. Nobody I know was taught. So now you're just out here and you're just going blind and you're going off of emotion and you're going off of looks, and because we were never taught. And I think that's probably one of the things that we probably should leave for the next generation. Come up with some concrete ways and things that you can do to kind of choose a mate. Kind of what to look for. I used to think that looking into someone's background, family background, was pretentious.
Yeah.
I'm like, everybody is they've gone through whatever, and just because their family is this way or they grew up this way doesn't mean that they're not a suitable mate and that kind of thing. And it wasn't until I got a little older until I realized, yeah, you do have to look into the family background a little bit, and that does make a difference.
Well, what about some of us? What about some of us who have dysfunction? I guess people like me would never have a mate because my family is as dysfunctional as you can believe.
No, and I don't think it's this person is in a dysfunctional family, so therefore they're disqualified. It's what happened to the person, and you use that to try to determine how the person acts. It's just kind of like a detective.
Right.
So when you see certain things, then it just kind of comes in your mind. You know what? That it's just like you dating a guy, and then you know his background, but you see little displays of anger or something,
right?
And then you can say, you know what? I know his background. I know what happened. So now you can start putting two and two together and start making a decision,
right?
On whether it's just one of the things, one of the pieces of evidence that you use to kind of put in the pot and stir around and then see if this thing is for you, right? So I just don't think there's a concrete way, and every situation is going to be slightly different, but I've not seen anything written down, especially for black families and for younger black people, to say, okay, these are the considerations, this is kind of how you go about it, this is the method, this is the framework, this is methodology, and this is kind of how you do it, right?
Well, you know what I
heard too? You don't do it, and everybody's left with love. Love is not a reason to get married in and of itself. That's just one ingredient.
This is the wrong time to talk about this, because now everybody is saying love is not a reason to get married. Oh my God, I'm gonna fail now. Look at me, I'm passing out.
That's the only reason.
I'm going to say that I agree with what you're saying. Love is definitely not the only reason to get married. Because I'm gonna go one further and say I've rarely met very many people who didn't marry for love, and 50% of marriages end in divorce.
Hold on. How many? What's that percentage? 50?
More than 50% of marriages end in divorce.
Yeah.
More than 50.
More than 50.
Well, I'm a living statistic, so what am I talking about?
Yeah, hey, I'm marrying for love. But here's the thing: when you're looking at divorce, it's not just coming from an absence of love, because these people loved each other when they got married.
Right.
Many times it's coming from an absence of wisdom, an absence of knowledge. We spend more money planning for the wedding than we do investing in the relationships after the wedding. People will spend money getting their cars tuned up. They will spend money going to a doctor's appointment, but they will not even buy a $20 book. They won't spend $199 to go to a marriage retreat or something to invest in their marriage. And then they will spend $30,000, $40,000 to get divorced. If you had taken some of that money that you're about to use on the divorce and invested in vacations, invested in counseling, individual and couples counseling, before you got married, then you would have some idea of what was happening in that family. Because in every section, the initial doctor's appointment, the initial psychiatrist appointment, they basically do. Now, bankers do credit checks, and they're looking at your history of paying on time.
Right.
Physicians ask you about your family history. They're looking at what runs in your DNA to see. And so, sir, when you said look at the family, you were absolutely right. My mother used to tell me her piece of counsel for how to choose a husband was look at how he treats his mother.
Wow.
That is a really wise piece of counsel, and I'm going to tell you why. Because, first of all, if he's treating his mother poorly, 9 times out of 10, that means his mother was treating him poorly. So his perception of women has been impacted in a very negative way. And, darling, women, listen to me. You are going to bear the brunt of that anger and what have you. And so if you don't have a man who is investing, or a woman, or a partner who's investing in themselves, Harriet, you were very right when you said you came from dysfunction. Most of us come from dysfunction, okay?
Absolutely.
However, it's what do we do after the dysfunction?
There you
do we always blame our mothers and our fathers who left us for why we're like this? Or do we say, you know what? They did that, but I'm going to deal with the hand that I have, and I may not be able to decide, I can't impact what they did, but what I can do is impact where I go from here. So when you have a blamer and somebody that's always pointing fingers, that's not the person to marry. When you have someone who is in therapy, investing in themselves, hey, I'm just saying.
That would be me. I'm just going to tell you all. I went to therapy because this is 2020, right? So it's open season, right? And we're all being transparent. We're family here, so don't feel bad. Don't feel bad about talking your business or whatever, because you know me. I just tell it like it is. Okay?
We won't tell anybody.
I won't tell anybody else. This is why I talk about me, okay? But in the year 2000, when it became apparent that my marriage was not going to last, my ex-husband had spent 13 years beating me up. And when it became apparent that my marriage wasn't going to last, I finally heeded the advice of my mentor, who had died 4 years before. Before she died, she said, promise me that you will go to therapy. And I promised her, but you know, in my culture, it's like, why you need to go to therapy? Why you need to go tell anybody your business, right? But when it got to a point where I needed to understand, how did I end up with somebody who told me he loved me but was beating me up and I couldn't understand it? I went to therapy. And man, was it deep. Did it help me? You bet it did. I cleaned myself up. It gave me an understanding of who I am. Do you see what I'm saying, Doc? And it taught me coping mechanisms. So I made better decisions going forward, y'all. We all need therapy. Come on, therapy is good.
Therapy is phenomenal. And I'm going to tell you, I'm one of those people, and I'm not digging up patients. I have patients, you know, coming out the wazoo right now. But I tell people, I think that everyone should be in therapy at least 4 times a year, because in the course of that 4 times, one of these things has happened. Somebody has died. You've had something happen at work or as an entrepreneur. Kids have done some foolishness. Certainly your partner, husband or wife, has done some nonsense or whatever, and something has happened. And what you want is someone that you can talk to who is not biased, who stands to gain nothing from you, to get counsel. When people tell me, I talk to the Lord, I talk to my best friend, how many best friends have you had in the course of your life?
Wow.
I tell them, you are paying for my scope of expertise and my confidentiality, because if I'm your girlfriend and we break up and we're not friends anymore, then you may find your business on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook for the older people, whatever, but all kinds of nonsense is on there. And then your friends, while they may be very well-meaning, they don't have a scope of expertise, so what they tend to fall back on is their experience. Well, you know, when I was having this plan, I exercised, I ate nutritious food, and I just pulled myself up by my bootstraps.
Right.
And what is not factored in is, well, this person that you're talking to, you know, they were in foster care, they've been sexually assaulted, they've been raped, they were molested, they were in and out of juvenile justice system, so your strategy is not working for them. And at some point in time, particularly in the communities of color, we have to realize that we are more likely to be victims of violence. We're more likely to witness violence. We're more likely to grow up with underemployment.
She's preaching tonight. She's preaching.
People in our families who are substance abusers or what have you. And so we are much more at risk for some of these things. And I don't consider it weakness or, you know, weakness versus I should be strong. I consider it an investment in yourself. Because here's the thing. If you never learned how to be a parent because your parent was in jail, incarcerated on drugs, how are you going to be a good parent?
Wow, y'all need to hear this stuff.
Your children deserve.
Wow.
Yes, your children deserve to have the best version of you.
Wow.
And if you're around people who are going to check you because you feel the need to invest in yourself, invest in your future, you're around the wrong people.
Who did y'all hear that?
Absolutely around the wrong people.
Did I talk about that today?
And
y'all on Twitter, did I talk about that? Yeah. It's the truth, though, because...
Very well-meaning.
Yeah.
Very well-meaning.
Right. People, are you hearing what the doc is saying? I can't afford her time, but you can. So you call her. We're going to give you her contact information so you can reach out to her. She does Skype, right? She does Skype, so she can Skype you in. And she can talk to you over the phone. Of course, she is a psychiatrist. She did go to UCLA, people, so we need to pay her for her time. Okay, them student loans are pretty expensive, okay? And we need to pay her for her time, right? But this is an investment in yourself. I don't know why we as a community won't look at some of the stuff. One of our colleagues, Dr. Kevin Washington, will be on next week. And he's going to talk about epigenetics, the science of how violence is in our DNA that sometimes predisposes us, especially those of us from communities of color, right? How we respond to violence and how violence has been normalized, right? And we need to understand how these things impact our relationships. When I'm telling you, I had a come to Jesus moment in 1999 when I realized that I had turned 30, y'all, and I was married to a man who was beating me up. I had to ask myself how. I was a beauty queen. I had been a model. I was on a career path to success. Do you understand what I'm saying, people? And I couldn't understand why someone like me would end up with some jerk who was going to beat me up. He was a jerk. He was a monster. He's dead now. He was married to me, so I can tell it. I've written the book about it, okay? And I kid you not, Doc, I had to say, what happened here? And I asked him questions, but you know the best thing I could ever do? I went to therapy. It took me 18 months, y'all.
Absolutely.
I didn't get out of therapy till 2001.
Violence doesn't happen immediately. I remember a colleague of mine, she was a physician, she was married to a physician, and when she was telling me about being a victim of domestic violence,
right,
for me, she was just like me. It was like if I said, and I couldn't imagine me doing that. And what she said to me was, it didn't start, it didn't start immediately. It just started with a little bit of verbal stuff.
Yes, it did.
Kind of a put down.
Right.
And so it just gradually, he chipped away at her self-esteem, at her self-worth, just kind of poked holes and stuff. And then when she was at her most vulnerable while she was pregnant, that's when it happened. And so realize that, all of us can fall into that category, and we have a certain perspective of that kind of woman that would take that, or what does she do to bring it on herself?
Yep.
And the truth of the matter is, if not for that could easily be one of us, particularly if we've seen it in our childhood. If we've seen it in our childhood, that's a norm. It can be a norm for us.
Yeah.
If we are, and what people will do is make you dependent on them. And so we have this dream narrative that Disney gives to us. First comes love, then comes marriage,
then comes a boy who'll give you a baby carriage.
Yeah, and so Prince Charming is to rescue us, and that sets you up for a model of being victimized. Because when your Prince Charming or Princess Charming comes through and says, "I want to take care of you," well, then you're financially dependent. You may be alienated from your friends and family, and so then you can't leave. The first thing people will say is, "Why didn't they leave?"
Yeah. That's true. Hello? Hey, Doc. We seem to have lost the connection. Hello? Hi. Hello?
Hi. Did we lose the Doc?
Briefly. I don't know what happened.
I'm here.
But I'm here. Yes, Doc. You were saying that the conception, but this is interesting. I think this is interesting, though, Doc, that Disney, they sold us a fairy tale, right? They told us about this Prince Charming dude who was going to come, and he was going to come riding in on a white horse, wearing white jeans like Mick Jagger. Anybody remember that song? Right? Riding into my emotional rescue. Y'all better stop laughing at me. You know what happened to me? I met a dude. He did wear white jeans too. Yeah, but he was riding a horse, but he did beat me up afterwards. But
they didn't tell you the full story, though.
No, they didn't give me the full story.
What's the full story?
This is why. Meaning, when she rolled off. When they got married, they had the romance. They got married and they rolled off. That's the end of.
Now let me make sure you guys can still hear me, right?
Yes. I don't understand.
I mean,
it goes off.
It's almost as though, and especially with women, it's almost as though you have the wedding, and it's almost the next day they just want to do it again, right? They want to do the wedding again because that's where the story ended.
Oh.
The story ends with the wedding. It's riding off into the sunset.
Stop it.
It doesn't talk about the daily cooking every day. It doesn't talk about
that is so
living
true.
together every day.
That is true.
Oh my gosh.
And that's the part that we want to relive.
Yeah.
Right?
That
we want to
is
continue
so
to relive
true.
that. And in fact, also earlier you said that, guys who, look at how men treat their mother, but there's something different going on today.
What's that?
So today with single parent households, what I'm finding is over the years that there are a lot of guys, and I know some of these guys growing up, where they're very, very close to their mom.
Yeah, tell
their
me
mom
about
holds
it.
them close because there's no man in the house.
Right.
So now the women that they date are having an issue with the relationship between the son and the mom.
Oh, you're
because
so
the mom
right.
is a lot more involved than, you know, she normally would be if if she had her husband in the house kind of thing.
But I also think that goes both ways,
Yeah,
because
right.
I have found that mothers today, especially single mothers who raise their sons, for some reason, especially in the Black community, I think single mothers place a greater value on having sons than on having daughters, right? And I think they baby their sons too much, so that he does not know how to be a husband and a father, but he knows how to be a son for his mom. So when he goes into a relationship, he tends to act like a son, right? He expects the woman to go out to work. He doesn't take the trash out. He doesn't hold the door. I mean, today's generation, I kid you not, I tell my daughters, don't bring home that, because I don't know how that's going to work. Because when I go out today, it's men my age and men over 35 and 40 who will hold the door for me. Or if I seem to be struggling with bags, it's men over 40 who are helping me with bags. Young men today, we're both walking up to the door, and they walk through the door and slam the door in my face. Because they were never taught to be a man. They weren't taught to be a husband. They weren't taught to be someone's dad. You see what I'm saying? So I agree with you.
Yes.
What do you think,
I mean, the dad's not around, so it's really the dad's fault. If he can be involved.
Because the dad is not around. So are you all going to stay in your sons'
Yeah.
lives and your children's lives now? I mean, we really need to have a come to Jesus moment about this. We need to recognize that we have damaged the next generation badly, and we have caused harm, and we need to fix it. We need to have that conversation. And it doesn't help that a lot of Black men are in jail and incarcerated. So as Dr. Mattox said, you didn't have a parent, but that's why you go to therapy, right? Am I getting this right?
And let me just say, even when you're not incarcerated, here's the thing: Black women have the luxury of being effective communicators, sometimes of talking to each other, of talking about emotions and stuff. One of the things that I've noticed about men is that, you know, they may sorry calling me grunt and toot or whatever, but you know, maybe they're talking about sports or whatever, and so there's not this safe outlet, because even when men try to release their emotions, sometimes they're not releasing those into safe places, because you know, they're not. They're not, and people will say man up and do all this stuff, and so when they try to show their sensitive side, it's not always, you know, well received, and they get negative reinforcement for that. So it's really important to find safe zones, you know, in therapy, and I'm going to say, you know, Black men with either Black men or people who are culturally, you know, humble or culturally or something, to where that can be a safe place. You know, and in our communities, we will go to the pastor, and I will tell you that, you know, there is not a universal regulation for what kind of scope of expertise pastors have. So some of them are very well equipped, but not all of them. You understand what I'm saying? If you stumble into somebody without that, you know, some of the information that you're going to take away is not going to be valuable. And I can't tell you how many families have been broken up because of and I hate to say this, because pastors have given such bad counsel and then ended up with the partner. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Are you kidding me?
And this is,
but you know, that goes back.
I'm not trying to bash pastors.
No,
I'm married to a pastor,
no.
so
You're on the
please know
right
that
track.
I'm not. But I'm just saying that that everybody is not trained in that area, and emotional intimacy can lead to physical intimacy. When we hear about the story of Samson and Delilah, it doesn't tell us anything about how Delilah looks. It talks about her words. You understand?
Right. Yeah, what she said to him. That's true. But you know, you hit on an important point that I think is relevant to the Black community, and that is the fact that church and pastors have a tremendous impact on our lives, right? Many people, counseling for them is going to the pastor. And as Dr. Mattox said, the pastor, he may have good intentions, but he may not be trained in answering some of our emotional issues. In fact, there is a disconnect that pastors will apply spiritual remedy to areas that are purely scientific. Our emotions are sometimes rooted in science, the hormones, the chemistry, where the person is, what their experiences and perspectives are. And so we go to the pastor and he gives us an impression that colors and affects that relationship negatively. Come on, people. We need to talk about this. Yes, Doc, rile it up. Y'all gonna forgive me tomorrow, right?
Well, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because here's the thing. I can't tell you how many people will come to me. And I'm a psychiatrist. I'm board certified in psychiatry and neurology.
Right.
But they will come to me with their heart problems. They'll come to me with their toe problems. They'll come to me with all kinds of things or whatever. And this is what I try to do. I try to stay in my lane. Okay?
Right.
So I can't tell you to stop taking your blood pressure medicine. Just let me talk mental health. And it can be really kind of a stroke to our ego to have somebody come to us for certain things. I want you to think I know lots of stuff. But, I have to say, let me send you to somebody with that kind of expertise. And I'm going to take it a step further when we talk about this. Now, if you are, a Christian persuasion, maybe you know about this. When Jesus healed the lepers, he said, go to the priest. The priest was to confirm that healing had happened. And so, the whole may not need a physician, but the sick do. The people with psychosis do. The people who are hearing things and seeing things and suicidal.
Yeah.
You don't want on your conscience that you told somebody to pray. And I agree with prayer, but I'm just saying it doesn't have to be either or. How about we do a combined approach?
That's what I'm saying. And guys, let me just tell you, Dr. Mattox is a Christian, so don't think that she's not a Christian. She is a Christian, but she is a scientist, and she is trained in applying scientific remedies to these issues. And as she says, the Bible is even very clear and gives us pronunciations on what we should do. If you're sick, go to the doctor. If you have a heart trouble, you're going to go to a cardiologist, right? Right. Well, if you have emotional issues, go see a psychiatrist. And so often what we do in the church is that people come to us and they have emotional issues, and we tell them, y'all know what I'm going to say. We're going to cast that demon out. Some things, some of those things don't work, because what happens is the person has deep-seated emotional issues that require medicine and the application of medical remedies, right?
Right. And the other piece, though, is that sometimes we are so angry with people, and we are giving them so much power over our lives. We are constantly thinking about them wronging us. And they, sometimes I'll hear patients talk about someone, and I think maybe it happened like 3 days ago, and it happened 30 years ago, right?
Wow.
But they are still fixated on that pain. And if we don't deal with that, the trauma of the rejection, the trauma of the abandonment, the trauma of the loss, the trauma of being and we keep just reliving it. And so a part of what we do in therapy is we go back to that place. We go back to that place and we release some things. And you'll notice that I didn't say forgive, because forgiveness sounds spiritual, and there is that. But you have to release all of that anger. And I won't say you have to release it, but you have to use your anger in a way that can be profitable instead of a way that is destructive.
Wow.
You can have your anger, and if your anger leads you to protest, if your anger leads you to policy change, if it leads you to start a nonprofit organization, great. But if your anger leads you into, self-destructive, you have HIV and you're sleeping with all these women, unprotected because you're, so your feeling, your anger in and of itself is not bad. It's not bad. It's like fire in and of itself is not bad. Fire for arson, bad. Fire to cook, good. So what do you do with that anger? What do you do with it? Now, Colin, I'm going to circle back, because you said something that we didn't actually touch on as much as I'd like. You said nobody teaches you how to choose a mate.
Wow.
And I wanted...
You're hearing this now.
Harriet and I talked about this a little bit before, a few weeks ago. But some people are chosen and some people choose. I have some people that I kind of laugh at, because any woman that chooses them, they'll take them or whatever. They don't necessarily have standards. Just if you choose me, I'll take you, I'll have you. And then there's some people who choose. When you're a good-looking guy or gal, people will choose you, you know, but sometimes you got to throw some folks back because no, we don't have the same, we're not compatible, da-da-da-da-da, you know. And sometimes when we're choosing, we keep choosing the same thing. I remember saying, my idea for me of what I thought was a good man for me wasn't working, okay? Because I went for tall, dark, handsome, da-da-da-da-da.
They beat me up when they were tall and dark. Yeah.
That didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what?
It didn't work for me either.
My type isn't working for me, so let me open up my type or whatever. And that's when I got a person I never would have chosen. But when I tell you he's great for me, you know. And I'm not going to tell you any lies and tell you it's been a fairy tale walk. No, or whatever. But he's brought out the best in me.
Wow.
And brought out very good
And that
stuff
is the
in
key.
him. He's
You want a partner who brings out the best in you. Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm gonna tell you, he can bring out the worst in me too at times, but you know, but that's what therapy is for, family. That's what therapy is for. When the psychiatrist tells you that she had a psychologist, trust me, you need one as well.
Whoa! Did you all hear that?
Expectations is something that needs to be discussed.
I'm sorry, caller, I didn't hear what you said.
I think expectations need to be discussed. I think I hear, you know, a lot of my friends that are women, you know, they'll say, well, I want this, I want that, I want a guy who does this and makes this and that. And I have to tell them, you know, the guy that you just described, you want a guy like that, but that guy has certain expectations too.
Yes,
that guy is looking for something very specific too.
Tell me about that.
And you don't know if you don't meet, you might not meet his view of what he wants.
Yeah.
Because if he's at that level, a lot of guys, they have an image of the person that they want.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think that's the thing. I mean, I think that's the thing with men and women. It's our expectations. We want to say, well, we want this, we want that, and that's fine. But then a lot of times you have to work on yourself to be the type of person that kind of person will want to be with.
This is a tweetable moment. Can you guys just tweet that out to the listeners? Because he just nailed it right there. And I'm going to tell you what I heard. What I heard is you want God's best, but you're bringing to the table sometimes the devil's worst. Okay?
Wow. Wow.
So if you want God's best, you work on yourself too, so you can bring some best to the table as well. That's what I heard, caller. That might not be what you said, but that was my takeaway.
But that's what I heard too.
I'm not saying the guy's worse, but you know, you have to work on yourself. I mean, because men and women,
a lot
you know,
of us
they want a lot of the same things, but some things, you know, are quite different. You know, that they want.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So, you know, so if I, you know, if there's some
it's true,
a model out there or something,
it's true.
And I don't really go for those, but
listen to me, guys. Hey, Doc.
Woman that I want.
Hey, Doc. Listen, the folks on Facebook are going wild with this idea because they're like over there, like preach, because it's true. Okay. It's true. A lot of people say they want the best, but they're not being the best, right? So they show up, I have this standard, I want this, I want that, but they haven't done the work to repair the damage that broken relationships and broken childhood, adverse childhood experiences have deposited on all of us. But you come and you want the best. You want the best, pay the price. I went to therapy for 1.5 years to make sure I got rid of all that goop. You see what I'm saying? And people come and they want, caller, you nailed it, dude. You totally nailed it. People want the best, but they don't want to put the effort in to make the stuff work. Come on. But they want an $80,000 wedding, though. Hello. Oh, y'all not agreeing with me, too.
Oh, wow.
Y'all not on the same page.
There's another thing.
I got married a long time ago.
There's a question I want to ask.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
There's a question I want to ask the doctor.
Yeah.
In this day and age, what is the purpose of marriage? Like, why do we need it? Like, there has to be. And the reason I'm asking this question is because.
So you're not married.
When I'm at, I used to be. So when I ask the question, what, you know, if a woman would bring it up, And then I asked the question, okay, so what's the purpose of this union?
Oh.
What are we doing? Because we're not going to sit around and play footsies all day. What is the purpose of this?
Come on, Doc, bring
What
it.
are we trying to accomplish? Because one of the things I noticed when I was married was that when we had a purpose, when we had a goal, everything worked out beautifully. You know, when there was a baby on the way, when we were buying a house, when we were planning stuff, we were just constantly working towards certain things. And when those things went away, things got worse.
Right.
So my question is, you know, when I hear that, is like, for what? Marriage for what? What are we doing?
Doc, what's
purpose
up?
of this? What's the outcome of this thing? What exactly are we trying to do? Are we trying to save the world? Are we trying to eliminate world hunger together, as well as all the other stuff? Like, what exactly are we doing?
Wow.
What's the purpose of this?
What's the purpose of marriage?
Question. And it's the question that is answered by each couple, and you have to put it on the forefront, because there's some people who will marry because they've been brought up in the tradition of the Christian faith, and they want to marry because they don't want to have the guilt or the shame of having sex outside of marriage. So that's some people who will choose to marry for that reason. There are other people who will marry because they want to, they know a two-income family. They want to be a power couple. They want to, be the Clintons or the Obamas, and they want to influence the world. And so it comes to the individual. If you're looking at, their biblical perspectives of marriage, some people might say to raise up a godly seed or to be fruitful and multiply. So it really depends on the individual couple as to what they are bringing to this, what their, historical perspective is and what they want out of it. Okay? So, a number of people who married at 16 and 17 married because somebody got pregnant. Okay, and so they didn't marry because they wanted to marry.
Yeah.
They married because their parents said, you're going to get married so that you don't embarrass me.
Wow.
Maya Angelou talked about on the Oprah Winfrey Show when she was pregnant, and her mother asked, do you love him? Does he love you? And she said, no. And she said, well, there's no reason to mess up 3 lives.
Wow.
So the purpose can be is varied, as numerous as the number of people on this planet as to why. But once you get to your why, just like the caller said, that's when you can move on. And it's interesting that you asked this question, because my husband and I were talking about this on yesterday, just on yesterday, about the purpose and when you're not working towards something, how you'll just give up.
Wow.
And you'll see people sometimes after a miscarriage or something, or after the death of a child, their institution of marriage will dissolve. They can't, to look at each other reminds them of what they've lost, and they just can't handle that. And so if it is to produce children, then if you lose a child, then you go. If it is to produce wealth, then when someone loses a job, then you go. The person I dated before I married my husband was a multimillionaire, okay? However, it's interesting because some things happened and all of that went away. Had I married that individual for money and not for compatibility or love, when that money went away, I would have gone away. My husband was not a millionaire, but I remember telling my friend, he is a blessed man, and I will never be broke a day in my life because he's a blessed man. And my husband said, where do you want to live? And I said, wherever you are. If you're in a dump truck, I want to be in that dump truck with you, because I loved and respected him.
Right.
So what you marry for, that stuff can go away. Marrying for sex, people can have erectile dysfunction, breast cancer, all kinds of stuff to where you can't do that for. So if you're marrying for anything other than, you know what I'm saying, things that you love for, that stuff can go away. Money, looks, all of that can go away.
Wow.
So you better make sure that you can live with that person without whatever it is that you're marrying them for.
Wow. This is such good advice,
after
y'all.
50 in a marriage, diabetes, high blood pressure, all that stuff set in. Honey, erectile dysfunction come on the scene, you may not get to have sex. So if that's the only reason you're married, bye-bye.
Bye. But that just brings a lot of clarity to, I hope this brings clarity to a lot of people who might have questions about why they should marry. Why should I marry? Why should you marry? You have to examine your reasons, really. You have to really examine what's important to you. what are you marrying for? If you're marrying for money, they can lose their money in a heartbeat. In today's stock market.
It was interesting. I worked with a group of women, and they were like, I want a father for my child. I want somebody to help take care of those bills. I have a woman right now whose husband is not bringing in a nickel, not paying for anything. Be careful what you marry for. It needs to be substantive and not just foolishness.
Wow.
And foolishness is in the eye of the beholder.
Wow. So it looks like...
Did I answer your question?
I hope it did. Did it answer your question, though?
No, you did.
You did?
No, definitely you answered my question. I mean, I think these are all good things, and I think that's a good answer because it has me thinking. Because even when I went, because I'm an engineer, I'm an entrepreneur. Like people have called me visionary. So
right.
I can't be in a relationship with someone who just wants to settle down and watch TV and live that life. And I think that's a great life, but that's just not
like
me.
hell.
That sounds like hell to me. Doesn't it?
It's I want to get out here and make a difference, and I want a partner in crime. You know what I mean? Where we're just getting out here, and when she has her focus and what she wants to do, and she's curious and that type of thing, and I'm the same, and I can help her with whatever she wants to do and whatever she wants to get into, and just that kind of thing. Like, just want to get out there and kind of affect the world in a positive way, no matter how small, right? Like, so it's difficult for me to get into just the relationship where everyone, just kind of settle in and, kind of slowly get older, and and that's not me. Like I said, that's great for some people, but it's not me. So that's why I asked the question, because I'm like, well, for me, I know why I would get married, but that's me, and I don't know.
Right.
I guess it would be different for everyone, right?
But
and let me just throw in,
yeah.
The single people that I know want to get married. Now, the single, never married people want to get married. The married people, many of them think that their lives will be much better divorced. The grass always looks greener on the other side, but the grass is greener on the side that you're watering it on. Understand, as you go into Valentine's Day season, this one thing: marriage is hard work. And that stuff that you see on TV, that's not what marriage is. It's who's going to do this, who's going to do that. The best Valentine's Day gift I ever got was I was sick as a dog. And my husband was doing all this stuff for my daughter that I could not do without complaint. He wasn't fussing about the dishes being piled to the sky because I couldn't move. And so you want somebody that is going to be there through the thick and the thin. Right. Anybody can be there when you have your millions and when you look like Tyra Banks or Halle Berry or whoever, Right. But, after you remember that big thing with the lady that was Sunshine in Harlem Nights, I can't remember her name, that was beautiful. And then she'd had something where she had to use steroids. She got bigger. Anybody can love Sunshine from Harlem Nights, but can you love the woman who had gone through cancer and steroid treatment, who's lost her figure? Because that's what love looks like. It looks like, wiping a snotty nose and doing some stuff. And so, we got to get over Disney's rendition of what love looks like, because that's a setup for failure. Because when the tough get going, tough times come and people go. But,
Wow, I can't tell you how valuable this conversation has been. I hope it has brought clarity to everyone else, because it is Valentine's, and many of us, well, excluding me, but a lot of us might just find yourself engaging in hookups just because of societal pressure that's going to say if you're not with someone this Valentine's Day, then you're a complete loser. But I want to remind you, in the wise words of my caller, whose contribution this evening has been so valuable, and in the words of Dr. Mattox, guys and gals, we need to pay attention, and we need to make sure that we know why we're getting involved in the first place. And for the love of God, don't just go with people because you look good on their arm or they look good with you. Be substantive about it. I still say love is still the best way. It's still the best thing, because it's going to last through all this stuff. Right, everybody? Everybody's still there? Yeah?
I agree. I don't like. I must admit, I dislike Valentine's Day.
I think men
I really do.
I kind of see why, because it's a setup. It's commercialized and it's a setup. And the ads for a month prior to is telling you that you must hook up and you must be with someone. And you shouldn't be with anybody who does not fit your paradigm of what a relationship should look like. And you have to know yourself, because I'm single and I don't hook up with anybody. And I definitely am not going to just hook up with somebody for Valentine's Day. That's ridiculous, right? That's inviting all kinds of drama into your life. And I'm not, first of all, as the caller says, I'm too busy for that. I have too much going on. So it's like, backseat, time on for that. Maybe next year, so not, right? But I think the conversation around making sure that you have your priorities right and making sure that you have done the due diligence on yourselves so that you know where you're coming from. The caller nailed it to the cross when he said, why am I getting married? You have to ask yourself, why am I in this relationship? What does it profit me? Why am I here? And if you can answer that question, I believe we're on our way. Guys, we have 4 minutes. What's the last word?
Okay, can I just say something?
I want to thank you guys for a great show. This was a great show, great discussion. So it was great speaking with you, Harriet and Dr. Mattox. Mm-hmm. And I wish you too well. And Harriet, this is my first time call. I just found the show. I was just kind of flipping through while I was multitasking, looking for something to listen to while I was doing some work. So, great show. I'll listen in again. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in. Dr. Mattox, what's the takeaway? Thank you so much.
And my takeaway is we have been waiting on these days, Valentine's Day or marriage, for someone else to affirm us. I hope on this Valentine's Day that you will just kind of toss away that waiting for somebody else to buy you a gift or buy you a dinner.
Hallelujah.
Or show you that you're special, and that you will show yourself that you're worthy. You will show yourself that you're valuable. You will do something special for yourself. Take that trip. Buy that dress, cook that healthy meal, sign up for that yoga class, invest in yourself. Yeah. Don't wait on anybody else to do that for you, because you are special. And then don't limit it to Valentine's Day. Do it every day. Do something good for yourself every day. That's my takeaway.
Did y'all hear that? Dr. Rhonda, I love you, and thank you so much. I couldn't pay you for this. I am so grateful. And this is so good. Thank you for encouraging us and just loving on us and imparting to us your wisdom on relationships that will make us healthier. Please say hello to your husband and your family. I will visit again in Little Rock. Or why don't you come to Detroit? Don't come in the winter because it's really bad now. But anyway.
Okay. I'll take you up on that.
But thank you, Dr. Mattox, for being such a part of my conversation this evening. I hope to have you again when you're free. Ladies and gentlemen, her name is Dr. Rhonda, Rhonda Mattox, Mattox. She's on every social media platform. You all need to Skype in and get some advice right now. We need therapy. And therapy is something that is going to be good for all of us. Thank you, Doc. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, did you hear that? I think the doc said it the best, right? We all need therapy, and we all need to be good to ourselves every day. Every day should be Valentine's Day. As for me, I don't wait on anyone to treat me. I buy the dress. I go to Victoria's Secret. I buy what I want, what I like. If I feel right now I'm going to make brownies, right? I feel like eating chocolate. I'm going to do that. And come Valentine's Day, I'm going to be good to myself. And you should too. Don't wait for someone else to walk into our lives to affirm us.
90
we
seconds.
Need to learn to do that for ourselves. And if we do that for ourselves, what happens is you'll be better, because then you'll attract only the best. And you will attract exactly what you're putting out. It's Valentine's Day, and it's going to be Friday. And please do not go back to the toxic relationships. Let's talk therapy, and let's go to a therapy. To all of you on Facebook who contributed, and to all my friends on Twitter and Periscope, thank you so very much. And to my friends at Anchor FM and Spreaker and iHeartRadio, thank you so much, everybody, for having me. This was live. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. See you tomorrow on Down to Earth as we continue to talk about the issues that matter. Tomorrow we're going to talk about facial recognition technology. Marcellus Ball, you need to be a part of this conversation tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. Be blessed.